So I wanted to like talk real quick about another thing that just came to mind. So we talked about artificial maturity. I look at it as almost like ignorance, when you don't really experience it firsthand. How can you provide a label on it or provide some kind of insight? Yes, you read about it. Yes, you studied it, but did you go through it? So in the mental health field, I feel like there's a lot of doctors out there that are presenting coping mechanisms. You see therapists do that, prescribing medications without ever taking one themselves. So I think it's definitely something to note that when you have mental struggles, when you seek professional help, you can't say for sure that that person didn't go through it firsthand. And I feel like that's very, very risky. Say you're very depressed and you go to the doctors and you get prescribed medication from a doctor who has never even taken it himself or herself. That's scary. You know what I mean? It's like, how are
That's
you? All
true.
right, that's like getting coached. That's like getting coached by somebody who never played the sport. Can you take them seriously?
I kind of have an argument for that, but
Go
I
ahead.
can
No, no,
definitely
no.
see what
Fire,
you're saying.
fire,
I can definitely
fire.
see. So like,
How do you know the game if you've never been in it?
well, that's the thing. You could do your research and you could
You
study
can do your
certain things.
research and then you get on the
But
field and you fucking suck.
It,
but
it's
so my QB coach, when I used to train for QB, completely deaf. Bro never played football his entire life. And now his son plays D1. And a lot of the QBs that come out of his program go D1. So I do have an argument for that. So you can still study certain things and be great at certain things without actually being in it.
it's kind of like
So
taking
that's
a
an
math
example.
test though, without even you can't take a math test and expect to do great on it without studying for it though, or like at least practicing a little bit of it. That's another like crazy example I can think of. That's like
Well, I feel like the best form of knowledge is personal experience. And yes, that coach must sound very, very good, but I mean, has he ever played flag football? Has he done anything where he has totally zero experience? He's never thrown a football in his life, and now he's teaching people. Do you know what I mean? He has to have some sort of personal experience to excel at that.
But like there's the study of the science. I see what you're saying, but there's still a study and science behind it, and success shows. But I could definitely see how in some categories you really need personal experience in order to do that.
Well, I bet you part of the reason why these players are really good coming out of his program too is because he took a lot of persistence himself as a deaf QB coach to become widely renowned. So now he kind of, yes, his mechanisms that he teaches are probably really good, but he's also providing a mindset for these kids because he's also done it himself and persevered. So that does make a difference. You know what I mean? To some degree, he does do that. But I mean, in terms, I'm going to go back to the mental health field now. How are you going to provide coping mechanisms for a patient if you've never even felt depression in your life before? It's like it's a foreign thing to you at that point. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's scary when people are presented false hope of things to help calm them down. So, say somebody's having a manic episode of crying and they don't know why, and the therapist is kind of speechless. They don't know because they've never been in that state before. That's the kind of things that I mean. Or before a big game, you have a coach who's never played a big game in his life and he's trying to like give you a pep talk. What's the pep talk really gonna even do if that coach has never been in that experience? You know what I mean? It's like when I was in your shoes, this is what I did. That knowledge is some of the best information and advice you can get because it's coming from personal experience, and that's what I think is really, really important. And it's kind of not really as existent as it once was. It's very
Mm.
artificial. People are studying because it's the easier thing to do rather than going through it. That's my argument. Does that make more sense though? Because even if you persevere through something like your QB coach was still able to provide some kind of insight from his own personal experience. It wasn't playing football, but it could have been the mindset. It could have been something else, other factors. You know what I'm saying? I just think like having mentors and things like that or peers above you is a great form of knowledge because you get to hear how exactly they got through something or how they did something. And that is very important.